right, what's up, Mob Crew? Welcome, everybody. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I am Chris with Monsters Under Our Bed. We cover true crime, mystery to the missing. Today, we're going to be going over the BTK, aka Dennis Rader. Going over the recent updates. Supposedly, there's some new possible victims. His daughter has been very outspoken. What an amazing person. Has been through the unimaginable. And she recently was on a podcast, Surviving the Survivor, who I have them pinned in my description. So I'm going to play a small clip later on during the show. But she went and visited her dad recently. It's been 18 years. He was arrested in 2005. And she went out to speak with him because of these new possible cold cases that could be attached to Dennis Rader. And anyway, what an amazing story. And so, yeah, we're going to go through all that. And of course, if you haven't heard of Dennis Rader or BTK, we'll go through the whole timeline, and then we'll go over the recent updates. So hopefully everybody can hear me okay in the chat. If you can, please put a 1. Just make sure everybody can hear me okay. Yesterday we kind of had an issue. But yeah, for those that are new to the channel, welcome. Before we get started, we always like to give back by featuring missing posters at the beginning of the show. So today we have Jasmine Gonzalez. She went missing out of Phoenix, Arizona. She went missing literally 3 days ago on the 27th. She is 14, 5'2", 113 pounds, brown eyes, brown hair, no tattoos, or unknown tattoos. And they don't know what she was wearing last. But if you have any information, you can call 602-262-6151. Once again, that is Jasmine Gonzalez, missing out of Phoenix, Arizona. She went missing near 23rd and Campbell in Phoenix, and just barely went missing. And then we have another one. This is JC, I think it's pronounced. This is out of Toronto, Canada. Last seen yesterday at 9:30. Just looking at my notes here. He went missing near Jane Street and Shepherd Ave, described as 6'1", so he's a tall kid, 150 pounds, curly black hair. He's definitely got the hair going on. Black hair, brown eyes. He was last seen wearing a red sweater, black tank top, black running shoes, and glasses. Fortunately, I couldn't find a number, but you can always just call your local law enforcement. But that is JC, 14 years old, went missing yesterday, and out of Toronto, Canada. All right, let's go in. So we get caught up in chat. Karen Juarez, thank you so much for becoming a member and supporting the channel. That means so much. Thank you so much. And let's see. All right. Got ones in the chat. Awesome. Sorry, my nose itches. It's driving me nuts. Peggy says, yeah, I watched the STS episode. Carrie is amazing. Hope to read her books. That's funny you mentioned that. Yeah, it was an amazing episode. And I do have a link to it in the description of this. But that's funny you mentioned the books because, yeah. So the daughter of BTK, Carrie Rawson, wrote 2 books, one in 2019, A Serial Offender's Daughter. Let's see, what was the rest of the title? My Story of Faith, Love, and Overcoming. And then it looks like she written another book this year called Breaking Free, Overcoming the Trauma of a Serial Offender Father. Can't use the K word, but yeah, definitely like to read those books for sure. All right. And so I do have a poll going, and the reason, and we might start up a new poll, but the reason I asked this, and it's overwhelmingly, it's 92% right now, yes. 3% say no, and then 5% say not sure. The reason I ask if you believe he has more victims is he does have that grandiosity, and when he was in court, he obviously admitted to what he did. And at the time, Kansas didn't have the penalty, and so I would kind of think that a person like himself, the way he kind of has that grandiose, that he would just admit to everything he's done, because it's not like he's going to get any more time. He got 10 life sentences. What's another 4? So I do think it's a little interesting, but then I guess you could look at it the way is, did he do that? That he left out some victims because he didn't want to fade into the background, and eventually, they would come across these cold cases and maybe put 2 and 2 together, and then they would have to go back to him, and here he's getting this kind of second wind, and he's back in the media. So could be a long game play. So let's start with just the basics for those that may not know the complete story, and then we'll get up to the recent stuff. But let me stretch this out right there. Okay, and clear this just real quick. So a little bit background on Dennis Rader, born in Pittsburgh, Kansas, 1945. He is the eldest of 4 sons. Dennis Rader grew up in Wichita, Kansas. Both parents worked long hours, paid little attention to the children at home. Apparently, Rader later described feeling ignored by his mother in particular and resenting her for it. From a young age, Rader harbored sadistic fantasies about torturing trapped and helpless women. He also exhibited zoosadism. Oh, I'm not sure if I can say that word. But hurting small animals. Rader acted out in fetishes of voyeurism. So he was peeping Tom. He had this autoerotic asphyxiation and cross-dressing. And then once again, he often spied on his female neighbors while dressed in women's clothing, including women's underwear that he had stolen, and self-pleasure with ropes bindings around his arm and neck. After graduating Wichita Heights High School, move that over just a little bit, Rader attended Kansas Wesleyan University. Rader received only mediocre grades and dropped out after 1 year. He served in the United States Air Force from 1966 to 1970. On discharge, he moved to Park City, and that's where he would live for, let's see, I think, I have it written down here somewhere, but for many years until he was arrested. And that's where he'd have his family. But so yeah, he'd moved to Park City. He worked in the meat department when he got back at a supermarket where his mother was a bookkeeper, which I thought was kind of interesting considering he resented his mother. And then moving on to his work history, he then worked at the Wichita-based office at ADT Security Services. And this is huge because this is, so he worked for this security company between 1974 and 1988. And we'll come back to this because this is kind of big, because this is connecting to one of the cold cases that they believe could be connected to him, where obviously he installed security alarms as part of his job. And ironically, in many cases for homeowners, they were concerned about the BTK activity. Then, let's see. So I skipped there. So let me grab this. Between that, he worked as a census field operator in 89, then a federal census operator in 90. And then for the rest, until he was arrested, he worked as a dog catcher and a compliance officer, which he worked from 91 until 2005 when he was arrested. As in his position of this compliance officer, neighbors recalled him being overzealous and extremely strict. There's many stories out there. As well as taking special pleasure in bullying and harassing single women. Rader was also a member of the Christ Lutheran Church in Wichita, and he had been elected president for church council. He also was a Cub Scout leader. Rader married Paula on May 22nd, 1971. They had 2 children, Carrie and Brian. His daughter, Carrie Rawson, who we'll be talking about later on in the show, during the early years, said he was a loving and caring father. She did notice that there was something wrong, but she just, she was a kid. Rader clearly wore 2 different masks. He was that caring, loving father and husband, but on the other mask, he was the BTK and America's most dangerous, at the time, one of the most dangerous serial offenders out there. All right, let me close this, and we're just going to go through victims 1 through 10. We'll just kind of not cruise through them, but we'll play a little bit. And so this is a 50-minute confession, and we're not going to play the entire thing. As a matter of fact, I'm only going to play the first 2 stories, and they're just this is cut down to 7 minutes. But this is him admitting to what he did. In court. This is his confession. It's got like over 5-6 million views. And anyway, he starts out with each victim. And so the first victims were the Otero family. And so we'll start here.
Find out more information. On that particular day, the 15th day of January, 1974.
And just warning, I'm not going to play where he gets into the details of what he does to them. I go up to where he confronts them, and then we're not going to get into specific details because it's quite terrible.
Can you tell me where you went to kill Mr. Joseph Otero?
I think it's 1834, Edgemore.
All right. Can you tell me approximately what time of day you went there?
Somewhere between 7 and 7:30.
This particular location, did you know these people?
No, that's No, that was part of my, I guess my what you call fantasy. These people were selected.
All right, so you were engaged in some kind of fantasy during this period of time?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, when you use the term fantasy, is this something you were doing for your personal pleasure?
Sexual fantasy, sir.
I see. So you went to this residence, and what occurred then?
Well, I had did some thinking on what I was going to do to either Mrs. Otero or Josephine, and basically broke into the house, or didn't break into the house, but when they came out of the house, I came in and confronted the family, and then we went from there.
All right. Had you planned this beforehand?
To some degree, yes. After I got in the house, I lost control of it, but it was, in the back of my mind, I had some ideas what I was going to do, but I basically panicked that first day. So
beforehand, did you know who was there in the house?
I thought Mrs. Otero and the 2 kids, the 2 younger kids were in the house. I didn't realize Mr. Otero was going to be there.
All right. How did you get into the house, Mr. Rader?
I came to the back door, cut the phone lines, waited at the back door, had reservations about even going or just walking away, but pretty soon the door opened and I was in.
All right. So the door opened. Was it open for you, or did something?
I think one of the kids, the junior, or not junior, yes, the younger, Joseph opened the door. He probably let the dog out because the dog was in the house at that time.
All right. When you went into the house, what happened then?
Well, I confronted the family, pulled a pistol, confronted Mr. Otero, and asked him to, that I was there to, basically, I was wanted to get the car. I was hungry, food, I was wanted, and asked him to lie down in the living room. And at that time, I realized that wouldn't be a really good idea. So the dog was a real problem, so I asked Mr. Otero if he could get the dog out. So he had one of the kids put it out. And then I took him back to the bedroom.
You took who back to the bedroom?
The family, to the bedroom, the 4 members.
So that's just kind of a brief description of before. So that's the Otero family. These are the victims, but there was more to this family, but these ones were unfortunately the victims from the Otero family. And so this is Park City. It's weird here in Park City because here in Utah we have a Park City, and it's quite well known because we have the Sundance Film Festival here, and of course we're known for our skiing and stuff, and that's in Park City. But yeah, this is Park City in Kansas. But this is where his house was, and the first victims, Oteros, were not too far away. Here's where the Oteros lived, and so this was the first victims here, a house on the corner here. And pull this up. There we go. And so on January 15, 1974, 4 members of the Otero family lives were taken in Wichita, Kansas. The victims were Joseph Otero Sr., 38, Julia Otero, 33, Joseph Joey Otero, 9, and Josephine Otero, 11. Bodies were discovered by the family's 3 older children who had been at school at the time, and they had to come home and find their family passed on. It's just terrible. Rader told the Otero family that he was a wanted man, and this is something he did with a lot of them, is that he would break in and kind of to make them feel comfortable. He would say, hey, I'm just a wanted man from California. I just need your, keys to your car and some money and whatever, and hold him at gunpoint and make him think that, he's just here to steal some things and then he's going to be on his way. And that was kind of his MO for a lot of these. But of course, that was not the intent. He had other things in mind. He would then lead the family into the bedroom, tie them down with rope that he had prepared. Joseph and Joey were on the floor, while Julie and Josie were on the bed. So basically, father and mother were tied up. The wrists and feet of Joseph and Julie were restrained. Joseph's head was covered with a plastic bag, which Rader then secured with ropes. But after he chewed a hole through the bag, another bag was tightened over his head, which sadly Joseph slowly suffocated. What he did to the family was pure evil. He would take poor Josephine, one of the youngest ones, down to the basement, and it was very terrible. So that was the Otero family. So it was his first 4 victims. And then our next one, and let me grab this real quick here. And like I said, I'm going to try to, I've got a few of his confessions of the first 3, and then we'll just kind of speed up so that way, so we can kind of get caught up to the recent stuff. But I thought we'd at least go through the timeline for those that may not have heard this story. Peggy, thank you so much for the $10 super sticker. You are so awesome. Please show Peggy some love in the chat. And okay, keep going here.
Yes.
And so here's just a kind of same thing. Him just kind of talking about him, just the beginning stages of the next victim.
I would indicate.
How did you select her?
Just driving by one day, and I saw her go in the house with somebody else, and I thought that's a possibility. There was many places in the area, College Hill, they're all over Wichita. But anyway, it just was basically a selection process. Work toward it. If it didn't work, I just move on to something else. But in and my kind of person, stalking and scrolling. You go through the trolling stage and then a stalking stage. She was in the stalking stage when this happened.
All right, sir. So you identified Catherine Bright as a potential victim.
Yes, sir.
What did you do here in Sedgwick County then?
Pardon?
What did you do then here in Sedgwick County?
On this particular day,
yes.
I broke into the house and waited for her to come home.
How did you break into the house?
Through the back door on the east side.
All right, and you waited for her to come home. Where did you wait?
In the house there, probably close to the bedroom. I walked to the house and kind of figured out where I'd be if they came through.
All right. What happened then?
She and Kevin Bright came in. I wasn't expecting him to be there. And come find out, I guess they were related. That time I approached him and told him I was wanted in California, needed some car. Basically the same thing that I told the Terrells. Kind of ease them, make them feel better. And proceeded to, I think I had him tie her up first. And then I tied him up, or vice versa. I don't remember right now.
Let me ask, you indicated you had some items to tie these people with. Did you bring these items, both the Oteros into this location?
The Oteros I did. I'm not really sure on them.
So this is where his grandiose comes out. And this is where I can kind of agree with this. And this is why I put this question up there. And maybe we'll do a new one as well. But Randy Marsh says, Dennis was too honest with his crimes once apprehended. In my opinion, he spilled his guts, and he isn't the Israel Keys, which definitely got to cover that guy on my channel. I'm sure there's many more victims on his list. But yeah, isn't the type to hold back info. So yeah, it really does feel like he was, because it's not like he was going to get punished anymore. But then, like I said earlier, could it be that maybe he knew if he spilled his guts and told, came forward with all the victims, he would eventually just fade away. So did he play the long game by holding a few victims back? That way, eventually they would come across something and, 10, 20 years later, they would have to come back to him, and his name is brought up again, and here we are. So I could see it both ways for sure. But yeah, here's where his real grandiosity and his arrogance comes out.
Right. There was when I had working with the police, there was some controversy on that. Probably more likely I did, but if I had brought my stuff and used my stuff, Kevin would probably be dead today.
All right.
I'm not bragging on that. It's just a matter of fact. It's the bonds I tied him up with, he broke them. So,
all right.
And maybe same with Catherine. It got out of hand.
All right. Now you indicated that you believe you had Kevin tie Catherine up. Mm-hmm. Tell me what happened then.
Okay. I moved. After. I really can't remember, Judge, whether I had her tie him up or she tied him up. But anyway, I moved her to another bedroom, and he was already secure there by the bed. I tied his feet to the bedpost, at the bottom of the bedpost, so he couldn't run. Kind of tied her in the other bedroom, and then I came back to strangle him. And at that time, we had a fight.
Were you armed with a handgun at that time also?
Yes, I had a handgun.
What happened when you came back?
I actually had two handguns. When I started strangling, either the parent broke or he broke his bonds, and he jumped up real quick like. I pulled my gun and quickly shot him. I hit him in the head. He fell over. I could see the blood, and as far as I was concerned, I thought he was down and was out, and then went and started to strangle Catherine. And then we started fighting because bonds weren't very good. And so back and forth we fought.
You and Catherine?
Yeah, we fought. And I got the best of her, and I thought she was going down, and then I could hear some movement in the other room.
So there is Catherine. What was I forget her age. Look at it. 19, somewhere around in there, 1920. And then her brother, kind of more recent. But yeah, sadly, Catherine lost her life. And what happened to Kevin? Oh my gosh. I mean, he is so lucky to be alive. So lucky. Um, let me get to chat here in a minute and we'll finish what happened between these two because what a wild story between these guys. There we go. So let me jump over to chat here, Sensei. Hey, Chris, it's been a while, but I'm back. Good to see you, Sensei, and thank you for being a member for 8 months. That's so awesome. Appreciate the support. Is he cuffed? Yeah, he is. He's cuffed. You do get to see him a couple of times where from the back, and yeah, he's got his hands cuffed behind him. Chris Davis says, nah, he cut some secrets for himself to gloat over. Yeah, I could definitely see that. Yeah, doesn't want to fade away. Henry Dog, good to see you. Chris, do you like dark or light green? Chris, do you like dark or light green? I do. Green is my favorite color. Yes, I do. I prefer dark green out of the two, if that was the question. And speaking of which, you can see it. It says the mob crew in pink. I believe Henry Dog got me that, which was really cool. It's something. Eventually, I'm going to get a wide lens camera, and I'll kind of have more in my background, and I'll have to kind of switch around my the way everything's set up here. But thank you so much, Henry Dog, for the $19.99. Hope you're doing well. Hope travels are safe. And we've got one more that I'm missing here. Oh, there we go. Carrie. Carrie, thank you so much for the $9.99 super chat. Really appreciate it. Please show Henry and Carrie some love in the chat. That's so amazing. I really appreciate it. Okay, so back to their story. So on April 4th, 1974, Rader broke into the Wichita home of 21-year-old Catherine. With her brother being in there, Kevin as well. And this created a problem because he wasn't expecting her brother to be in there. And things really got out of hand. I'm not sure because, as he says in his testimony, he's not sure if he tied her up or if he had her brother tied her up. But I guess whoever tied her up, she wasn't tied up very well. And then there was him and Kevin started fighting. And Kevin actually ended up so when Rader went into this house, he actually had a 22 and then I want to say like a 45 or he had a second gun in his shoulder here. And Kevin actually was able to get it. But then while they were struggling, Rader was able to jam it and then get the gun from him. And he ended up shooting Kevin. And Kevin would go down. And so he thought Kevin was done. And so then he went back to Catherine, who was now getting out of her restraints. And so then he had to wrestle with her to get her back, tied up. He would eventually, sadly, stab her 3 times because she was struggling and it was just being too much for him. And during that time, Kevin got up and got shot again. So he was shot twice. And I think both of them were in the head, I believe. Let me know in the chat. I'm pretty sure it was in the head. I know one of them was in the head. But I want to say he was shot twice in the face or head area. And definitely the second shot, he thought he was completely for sure dead. But he wasn't. And I guess then he went back to finish off Catherine. And after that second shot, he ended up getting up the brother and escaping out of the house, and was running down the street, all bloodied and just absolute horror. But he would survive, obviously, and just unfortunate that he tried everything to save his sister, and I can't imagine what he's had to go through. So then we'll just kind of move on. Like I said, that I don't want to be here all night and go and play in each part. But so then we have, so that was victim. So obviously that would have been victim number 5 after the Oteros. Then we have our, and so we'll look that up here real quick. And so that was the Bright family. Catherine Bright, and she was not too far from the Oteros, and then we can see where Rader was at here. So this is where the Bright residence was at, and this was only 4 months from the Otero attack, same year. Then victim number 6 on March 17th, 77. So there was a little gap in time. So let's see if we look back. 74. So there had been 3 years, supposedly, since he had done anything. And so on March 17th, 1977, sadly, 25-year-old Shirley Ruth Railford was found dead in her Wichita home. Rader was pursuing a nearby target that ended up not being in her house. And so this was actually a random attack, because usually he would go scout the house that he was, or scout the victim and do research and all that stuff, and had a plan, and then even gave that project a name. But this person that he was targeting ended up not being home. And so then he ended up following the 5-year-old son of Relford. So Rader entered the residence, pulled the handgun from under his jacket, frightening the family. It was her and the 3 children. After tying the 3 children up, he locked them in the bathroom. Rader then took Relford to the back bedroom, restrained her, tying her to the bedpost, strangled her, took her life, placed a bag over her head. Absolutely terrible. All the while, the children are screaming. Luckily, one of the children were able to get out, and they were able to escape. And they were very lucky, because he had every intention of taking everyone's lives there that day. So it was a miracle that those kids did get out. So looking at her, victim number 6, she was a little bit further south, right here. And victim number 7. So same, what was that? Same year, right? 77. Yeah. So same year, at the end of the year. So what, 8 months later, something like that. On December 8th, Rader knocked at her door. When nobody answered, he cut the phone lines before breaking in, and waited for Fox in her kitchen. Fox, her death would be described by Rader as what I call the perfect hit. Although she gave me a lot of verbal static, she cooperated. She didn't fight me. I had complete control over her. That's why it was one of the more enjoyable, as I call them. Rader took Fox's life by strangling her with his belt on the bed. Rader told her that he was responsible for the prior Otero tragedy. The following day, Rader called the police from a phone booth, telling them that they would find Mrs. Fox's body at her home. So we have victim number 7, Fox, who is right here. So they're all kind of in a pretty close area around Wichita here. So most of these are kind of south of Park City here. Then we've got, before we go to the next victim, this is when he starting to play games with the law enforcement. In early 1978, Rader sent another letter to television KAKE in Wichita claiming responsibility for the Oteros, Bright, Relford, Fox. He suggested many possible names for himself, and this is where we would learn of the BTK. He demanded media attention in the second letter, saying, "How many do I have to take before I get a name in the paper or some national attention?" This is also when we learned about the poem "Oh, Death to Nancy." He claimed to be driven by the X Factor, or Factor X, which he characterized as a supernatural element that was also motivated by Jack the Ripper, Son of Sam, Hillside Stranglers. During this time, Rader also intended to have taken others, such as 63-year-old Anna Williams, who in 1979 escaped death by returning home much later than expected. Oh, so that was the one victim that he was hunting, but she never showed up. Rader explained during his confession that he became obsessed with Williams and was absolutely livid when she evaded him. All right, let me take a sip, and we'll move on to the last few victims, and then we'll get up to the updates here. Hey, Elbows Mom, Chris, was there no SA element to his crimes? No. So there was. He did get pleasure, but it was. And he did pleasure himself at all of these crime scenes, but it was the death. So he actually didn't assault their bodies. He would just pleasure himself while they were suffocating. So kind of unique. Okay, so our final few victims here, 8, 9, and 10. So Marine Hedge, age 53, was found on May 5th, 1985. And this is where there was a kind of a break in the time. So let me pull this up real quick. So as we can see here, and this is in order here. So after Fox, there was a 8-year gap during that time. So keep that in mind until he took his last few victims. But yeah, 8-year gap until between Miss Fox and then Miss Hedge. So May 5th, 1985, Wichita. Rader took her life on April 27th, took her body to the church where he was the president of the church council. There he photographed her body in various bondage positions. Rader had previously stored black plastic sheets and other materials at the church in preparation for what was going to happen, and then later dumped the body in a remote ditch. So that was victim number 8. And this one is right where he lived, right down the street. So I think the daughter had remembered that someone had gone missing, and then heard about when they had found her body, and I thought that was strange. But yep, just down the street, 4 or 5 houses down. And oh, that's right, I got to do it. We'll take a look at. I think there's just an empty plot right here. Victim number 9 on September 16, 1986. So 1 year later, Rader strangled 28-year-old Vicki Lynn Wergel took her life with a nylon stocking at her house in Wichita. Rader entered the residence by pretending to be the telephone repairman. Rader rearranged her clothes post-mortem and took a number of photographs of her nude body. So that was victim number 9. And she was located back down south, if I recall. Yeah. So kind of more back into his normal area in Wichita here. Then our final victim that we know of for right now, Rader's final victim, number 10, 62-year-old Dolores Davis, was found dead February 1st. So then this was another time when there was a break. So 86 was his victim number 9. And then so there was a 5-year gap between victim number 9 and 10. And let's see, where was I at? So yeah, so she was Rader's final victim, 62-year-old Davis. She was found in Park City, Kansas. Rader had taken her life on January 19th by strangling her with pantyhose. And that will become an important element when it comes into these cold cases. One of the items that he used in a few victims with pantyhose. So there are the 10 victims that we know for sure that he had claimed. Excuse me. And she too was also another one that was just down the street from where he lived. So yeah, just literally right down the street in Park City. So there is that, and I'll get to chat here in just a second. Let's see, what was at the end of this?
I already figured out I had a plan on leaving, and put her in a blanket and drove her to the car, put her in the trunk of the.
Oh, I wanted to play this part because this kind of goes into what Carrie talks about in her interview with Surviving the Survivors podcast. So listen to what he says. This is victim number 9, right? Double check. Or was it? Or no, victim number 8, I think it was. Miss Hedge. He wraps her body in a blanket, and that will become important.
I already figured out I had a plan on leaving, and put her in a blanket and drove her to the car, put her in the trunk of the car.
So you were able to strangle her to death with these pantyhose?
Yes, sir.
All right, you put her in your car.
In her car. The trunk of her car.
What happened then?
Oh, okay, that was number 10. I'm sorry. Okay, number 10. So anyway, that blanket we'll talk about here in a minute. But okay, so we caught up there. Now let's talk about the recent updates. So let's see. Yeah, let me play this. Actually, no, let me pull this up first. That way we're stay in order. So on August 23rd, so literally a week ago, the Associated Press reported that Rader was considered the prime suspect in 2 further victims in Oklahoma and Missouri. Authorities discovered possible trophies from the victims after launching a search for evidence at his former Kansas home, resulting in the investigation of Rader's potential involvement in the additional unsolved disappearances. And yes. And so here's the 2 here. So on the left here, we have Cynthia Kenny, 19 years old. She went missing June 1976. And the one here is 22-year-old Shauna Beth Garber. She was originally known as Grace Doe. So they identified her, I think 2021 is when they found her ID. And this is kind of model of what she would have looked like today. And here is a picture, kind of a baby picture of her. And so, let's see. And so this is what happened, or what we know about these cases. So Cynthia Kinney was last seen in Osage, Oklahoma, and that's pretty close. So you have Kansas, and we'll look at the map, but Osage is kind of close to the border between Kansas and Oklahoma. It's not too far. On June 23rd, 1976, at Osage Laundromat, witnesses said that she left the laundromat at 9:30 a.m., got into a faded beige 1965 Plymouth Belvedere. A bank was also having a new ADT alarm installed across the street from the laundromat when Kinney went missing. Rader was the regional installer for ADT at the time. And so he had worked for ADT between 1974 and 1988. So this would have definitely fit with what's going on. And Rader's MO is that he would usually take lives during the weekdays, so Monday through Friday, and usually between 8 and noon. Rader used items to bind and strangle his victims, items such as pantyhose. In this particular case, they found a piece of pantyhose on Rader's old property, the home, and we'll look at it again. They found a piece of pantyhose that they believe is connected to this victim here, Cynthia Kinney. So absolutely wild. Then we have 22-year-old Shauna Beth Garber, formerly known as Grace Doe, was found slain in McDonald County, Missouri, on December 2nd, 1990. An autopsy revealed that she had. Now, this is where the one thing that I would not add up to his normal MO is she had been essayed. She was strangled and hogtied, which that does fit his MO. She was strangled with 2 different types of cords. Her body was found 2 months later. She went missing out of Topeka, Kansas on November 3rd, and then her remains were identified in 2021. In 2023, that's when they named Rader as a prime suspect in her case as well. So let me get to chat, and then according to his daughter, who then we're gonna listen to a clip here from his daughter from the podcast, and it's wild. So I'm really excited to play that. But let me get to chat first, and then we'll go ahead and play that. And just a question, anybody in Florida, how's everything going? I was actually up this morning. I woke up really early this morning, and so I was watching a couple of storm chasers driving around southern Florida, chasing the storm and, helping anybody that they could see. God, it was really interesting. God, this one guy had like 4,000 or 5,000 viewers watching, and yeah, it was pretty wild, and just hopefully I don't know if there's been casualties. Osage? Oh, am I saying it wrong? Osage? Is that how you say it? Henry Dog. Back in the day, I lived across Seattle area. I had a friend, killed by the green. Oh, no way. You had a friend's life taken by the Green River offender. Wow. I'm so sorry to hear about that. That is wild. Man. Small world. I'm so sorry to hear that. That's crazy. Thank you so much, Henry. But yeah, terrible to hear that. Um, okay, so now we'll play a small clip from, I think it was uploaded yesterday, and this is very fascinating.
Okay, so we have all that.
So I'm just playing just a small clip. So, like I said, if you missed the earlier part, she finally went to go see her father, who she has not seen in 18 years, since 2005. And basically, she was going there to kind of confront him and, try to get information out of him and see if he is responsible, and if he would admit, and see if they could make a deal. And anyway, this particular clip is she asked her father, how many victims are there? And so now I'll go ahead and play her response.
Because we have transcripts and we can go use them. Because he's so fast, you have to have that transcript. I had notes. I'm able to keep my notes, but we have to have that transcript because we need to catch him in those lies. Like, he's flipping that cube constantly. Okay, and when I'm doing my hand like this, okay, here's an exclusive new for you, Joel. I go, is there more than 10, Dad? And he goes, it's 10. And he holds up a finger. He's right-handed. And he goes, he's in cuffs, guys. Okay. So he's in cuffs. He's like this little old man. He's in cuffs. He goes, it's 10. Now show me how would you guys do 10? How would you guys do 10? Like this, right? Mm. And you would hold this, right? Or you maybe would do that. Are you going to be moving that 0? No, because it's a solid 10. I go, is it 10, Dad? And he goes, 10. And he rolls that 0. And I don't think because there's no cameras, right? And he says it silently and he goes, and now I'm thinking, good God, man, how many times are you rolling that 0? Because I think you're trying to tell me it's more than 10 and you don't want it on audio. And I cannot get that out of my head of him doing that. Who has ever done 10 like this?
During the 1970s could be linked to 2.
Yeah, so that is absolutely wild. And like I said, after the show, if you haven't seen that podcast, like I said, I have a link in the description. Surviving the Survivor, great podcast, great channel. And anyway, I also had a theory as well that I want to add into that. So yeah, you would think you would hold up. I guess it would be like that because I'm reversed. My camera's reversed, but I would think if he was, so let's say maybe he has arthritis in one of his hands. So with like the number 0, he's got arthritis. So he couldn't really make the fist. Maybe that could explain why he drew the 0 with one hand. But I would think you're either going to do this. Well, I have to do it the other way because it's reversed. You'd either do this, or why didn't he just go and then 0? Whoop, whoop. So I do think what she's saying, I agree with her because, in my opinion, I think, he's got like arthritis and one bad hand, and if he was going to draw, why not just draw the 10? 1, 0. But yeah, if you're going to hold that up and then start spinning, then to me that seems like it's a counter. Like a counter going up. So let me know what do you guys think in that interview? Do you agree with what she's saying there? That he's kind of counting up, but obviously he can't say it because he's being recorded. There's transcripts. But yeah, I would think if he was just going to draw, why not just draw both 1 and 0? Yeah, so for those that are just coming in or may not know this, yeah, this is the daughter to the BTK. This is Carrie Rawson, an amazing woman, been through the unimaginable, and now her sole purpose now is to bring justice to any remaining victims that are associated with her father. And she even goes on, and like I said, I didn't want to take more clips because even though I could, but I just want to be respectful. But she does talk, and it's a 2-hour episode, so there's so much. It's an amazing episode. Oh my gosh, absolutely amazing. But she said towards the end, she's like, even if we have to have this, she uses some interesting words. She's like this kind of kumbaya, Silence of the Lamb, Roman candle situation where, look, we get it all figured out. Because one of the problems is, and I can kind of understand this a little bit, is you've got victims in different counties. So obviously you got all these different entities. So that's going to be a problem. So they're not going to be working together. So you need somebody, one big like the FBI or Special Task Force, to oversee it all that can, all work together, because right now you've got victims in different counties, and that's always a problem. So, she wants to somehow make a deal so that, her, because obviously her father's, in this interview, we learned that her father was originally 5'11" and now is 5'2". He's lost all his teeth, or most of his teeth. He's in a wheelchair. He's, I don't know how many more years he's got, but, time is not on his side. And so obviously her mission is to, try to get that information if, he is responsible for these others. And she said, if I have to, do this thing where I sit down with him and lay in bed with him and we just go through all of them, and just, get it over with. It's amazing. Like I said, you have to see the show, but it's a little emotional too, because, she's going through a lot. She is a brave woman. And yeah. And she has a great memory. She's definitely someone visual. And then she's going up against her father, who is clearly no dummy and is clearly playing games and is basically a psychopath. But he is still, at the end of the day, a father as well. She talks about when she saw him, they hugged and kissed, because, at the end of the day, unconditional love is, and anyway, it was wild. It was definitely a roller coaster of emotions watching this podcast. It was really amazing. Really amazing. Emo Jim, good to see you, buddy. Hey, Chris, home with the new... Oh, no. EG5 COVID variant? No way. So I got to watch your live today. I've been watching your videos when I can. Great work. Thank you so much, Emo. Man, hopefully, everything's going good, and you're getting the proper treatment you need. And I'm sure, buddy, you'll get over it. I'm hoping nothing's wrong with that. And, you have a great recovery, buddy, because I hate to see that. I think I did get a variant of it, because I did. I got, was it 2 years ago? I had a temperature of, I think, 102, and I started hallucinating, and I was just about to go to the hospital, and it started coming back down. But I hadn't had a fever like that since I was like a young kid. And then when you're actually starting to hallucinate, and I should have probably went to the hospital, but I'm stubborn. I was like, all right, if it gets any worse, then I'll go. It's always kind of, I'll just wait, a little bit more. But yeah, oh man, I have never had a fever so bad. Hey, Cunningham, good to see you. Hey, Chris and everyone, good show. Thank you. Okay, let's move on. Sorry. But yeah, this was wild to see this in a great episode. Sorry. So here's a clip of just kind of the news talking about it, and then we'll look at where the victims were at.
It on audio, and I cannot get that out of my head of him doing that. Who has ever done 10 like this?
During the 1970s could be linked to 2 more unsolved cases in other states.
Dennis Rader is our number one suspect.
Officials now believe 78-year-old Dennis Rader, already serving 10 life sentences, is the prime suspect in the 1976 disappearance of 16-year-old Cynthia Kinney, last seen at this Oklahoma laundromat. Her body never found. The sheriff says a key piece of evidence.
You can see by its age and color, it appears to be a pantyhose ligature.
These pantyhose tied in a knot. Rader is known for bounding the wrists and ankles of his victims. He wrote cryptic letters to the media saying this past April say they found the pantyhose buried on the land where Rader's home used to stand.
So I'm going to pause it right there. Let's just take a look. So they left that, and I guess it's a good thing that they didn't put anything over that plot. That's Rader. There it is. Grab this. Boom. Boom. Okay. And there we go. So yeah, they just left an empty plot. And so is this what they dug up right there? Or let's look in the video. There's a fence next to it. So either it's behind this fence or it was along this fence or along this fence. Let's see, the road, so it would have been on this side. So there was concrete, so maybe that is it. It just doesn't look like it lines up. It looks curved. It looked like it was more parallel. I guess it does kind of curve out. Oh yeah, because it kind of comes in and then curves out. So I guess that was it. So this is what they dug up, I'm assuming. Oh yeah, it does. Okay, I can see the curve in there. So something right in here. So that's wow, because we're looking at a picture. This was taken a year ago, literally a year ago, August 2022. So they dug up or took out one of these slabs and actually found that piece of pantyhose right under that slab. And they believed that could be tied to one of the victims from the laundromat. That is wild.
Where he allegedly kept items from his crimes.
It was very, very clear someone had created this hole and had refilled it with a different material. Took some precaution to try to maybe protect some of those items.
2-year-old Shauna Beth Garber, authorities releasing this artist's rendition of what she'd look like today. The focus now following every lead to solve these cases. Investigators say in a jailhouse interview, Rader acknowledged having a fantasy about kidnapping a girl from a laundromat. The sheriff has vowed to keep investigating.
So there is let's see, what time is it? So we started at 5:45. About an hour and 15 minutes. Okay. So yeah, there's a few more things I wanted to show you guys. Folder, where are you? Oh, I forgot to mention how he was caught. Oh, I did forget to mention this. So for those that don't know how they ended up catching him, because he ended up taunting It was kind of like the Zodiac Killer in a way, where he was sending messages. And anyway, he kind of got a little arrogant, and he sent all sorts of weird stuff that you can easily look up. He sent cereal boxes, obviously serial killer. And anyway, the thing that really did him in is he sent this floppy. So he had sent an ad, or somehow contacted the police, and then they put out an ad saying, I think they were contacting through like the classifieds or something. And anyway, he put like, hey, if I send you guys a floppy disk, will you be able to trace it back to me? And of course, the law enforcement said, no, you're safe. You're good. You're all good. No way we can catch you if you send this floppy disk to us, as they're licking their chops. And so he did. He had sent them this floppy disk. This disk was in the computer, because at the church, he worked at the council, so he had that at the computer that was in the church, and he had a login. And anyway, of course, with anything, it has what we call metadata, just like any pictures, hard drives, whatever. It's got metadata in it. And so when the floppy disk came, they were able to look at the metadata. At the time, I'm sure there's not much with the floppy disk, but they were able to see that it showed them that there was somebody associated with that certain church that he went to, and then they found the name Dennis Rader. And then, the rest is history. Then they were pretty much, they were on him. Anyway, going back. All right, so we covered.
Okay, so we have all that.
Okay, so we got that. So some of the tweets that Carrie had tweeted out yesterday or the day before dropped some bombshells, or a little bit anyway. So I think she dropped this yesterday. Oh, the 28th. So 2 days ago. So she says, folks, at this point on record, before we were looking for just two cases that are associated. Now she's saying we're looking at 5 unsolved missing persons, possibly attributed to Dad. And then it says Kinney, 76, or 1976, okay, Oklahoma. And then there's what's called the Project, which is Bad Wash Day. Missing woman, Hayes, Kansas, 83, Project Prairie. Garber, Missouri, 90, Mossy Lake, unsolved, Kansas, Project Bell, and then Oklahoma case number 2. So, and if we look, so let's just look here. Perfect. Zoom this over so you can see them both. There we go. Oh gosh, don't do that. So if we look at the little breaks, so he had the first 1 through 5 in 74, his first 5 victims. Then there was a little break for 3 years. But here, there's a victim in 76, which that would line up with kind of when he took a break. And then after 77, he took that 8-year hiatus. But here, there's a victim in Kansas in 83. Should line up. Then, let's see, what was the other 2 girls real quick? 76. So same thing, where he took a break between 74 and 77. Cynthia Kenny was in 76, so that would have been in his supposedly time that he took a break. And she was in 1990. Same thing. He supposedly took a 5-year break between 86 and 91. So was he really taking a break, or was there actually more going on? And a lot of these are kind of when there was no activity for that year or years. So it does kind of line up that maybe he wasn't actually taking a break and there were more victims and we just didn't know about it. Gary says no way he had an 8-year hiatus. Yeah, that seems pretty long to go without that long without taking a life. Let's see. What's in here? Just looking at chat. Oh yes, I'm glad you mentioned that. And yeah, this was another thing. His last communication with police, he used the name Rex. I wonder if it had anything to do with Rex's age starting his career. Yeah, they talked about that in the show as well. Yeah. And since I couldn't read all this, I'll just leave that comment up. But yeah, he used to leave items like that out. So crazy. So anyway, before we finish up here, just give you an update of what's coming up. Oops, actually, no, let me open this up. We'll definitely, of course, keep an eye on this story. And after this show ends, if you're interested, I've got the link to the show for Surviving the Survivor in the description. If you haven't seen it, I would highly suggest checking it out. Great episode. There's a lot more. She said that there's like blankets. The blanket thing I forgot to mention. So apparently, this blanket that her father used to wrap up a body in ended up being a blanket that they used for a family outing, and she's just going through a lot of personal details that were just felt absolutely terrible. But she also mentioned that there's items out there that could that have not been tested, and they're kind of like memorabilia or whatever that are out there, and she says they need to be tested because they could be linked to one of these cold cases. So yeah, what a wild episode. And always, so we have a little over 300 people in here. Thank you guys so much. Not quite finished yet. Just a couple more things. But if you could, please hit that like button. It really helps us. And I just want to say thank you again. We hit, the 70K mark, and we're already halfway to 71K. And it just means the world to me. The support is so awesome. And like I said, if you are newer to the show, we do not only do we give back by featuring the missing, but we do help cold cases. And this is going to lead up into my show for Friday. So Dior Coons. Now, I'm not going to do Dior Coons on Friday, although we may do another update before we go. But this is the case that we're going to be going out not next week, but the week after. So 1 week from Labor Day, or a few days after anyway, around there, is when we're going out. We're going to Rader, Idaho, and this missing 2-year-old boy that went missing in July 10th, 2015 is now a cold case. They have not found his body. We are going to go out there. We're going to be searching the lake. I'm actually going to be, thanks to many of you, I was able to get some gear. And so this reservoir here, which is, I think, Stone Reservoir. It's not a very big lake or reservoir, but we're going to be going out there. we're going to be running sonar, basically kind of like the stuff like AWP does. We're going to be running that kind of equipment. I am going to be getting in a wetsuit, and I am going to be scouring the lake while Steve runs the sonar. And we are going to literally search every piece of that lake that we can. We're going to be out there for close to a week. And we're not, our focus is the lake, but we are going to also search the surrounding area as well. So it's not just going to be the lake. We're going to try to cover as much ground as we can with different gadgets. But the lake is going to be kind of our focal point. But we wouldn't be able to do that without you guys and the support that you guys bring. So I just want to say thank you so much. But I thought it'd be interesting to cover. So our upcoming shows is I'm going to be doing some more David Pilatus 411 cases, since this is technically a case that David Pilatus covered in one of his videos. Yeah, so we're going to be probably doing a few of those in the upcoming live shows, because there's some interesting, wild stories that I would like to cover on this. So that's probably what's going to be coming up. So, Emo Jim, hey Chris, congrats on the 70K mark. I'm so happy for you. Great job as always. Thank you so much, Emo Jim, buddy. And I hope you have a fast recovery, man. I hate to hear that you get the COVID variant, man. That's terrible. Maria Foucher, hopefully I said that right. Maria Foucher, thank you so much for the $2.99 super sticker. Thank you so much. Please show Marie and Emo some love in the chat. It really helps. The donations do really help us, and we do try to put them to great use by help look for the missing. So I think with that, thank you so much, Chris. I love you. Thank you. There's a comment I saw that I want to get to. It disappeared. Oh, there it is. Yeah, it's so hard. Avoiding words for YouTube is not my forte. It stinks. So just one little thing. So if I do a regular upload, I can say the M word, the red rum, as long as I don't use it a lot, but I can use that. I can use most of the words that I had to ignore when it comes to a live show. And now I kind of understand this, especially because of one certain incident. And I'm sure there's many, but obviously they're trigger words, especially for live shows. So obviously I start saying red rum and illing and all these. It's an automatic trigger, it's for YouTube's AI that says, oh, hey, here's these trigger words. We're going to flag this video. So it's not going to make any money until we review it. And the reason they do that, and obviously they flag it, is because there was people in the past that would do lives or videos, but lives, and say, oh, talk about red rum. And there was that one guy that actually ended up attacking the subway. The guy that ended up not actually hurting anybody. He ended up throwing a smoke bomb and then trying to shoot people. And because of the smoke bomb, he wasn't able to hit anything. But anyway, so yeah, it's rough. It's really rough to have to kind of try to bounce around those words. So yeah. But anyway, so yeah, I'm going to go ahead and play the outro, and we'll be back here on Friday. And then, as always, we do regular live shows 3 to 4 times a week. And then we also do regular uploads as well for those that like the shorter clips. So thank you guys so much. Again, I hope you guys have a wonderful Wednesday. And we will see you guys on Friday.